Now Frank Lampard comes up against Chelsea for the first time as a Premier League manager on Sunday, and he'll be desperate for something for his current side from the team that he enjoyed so much success.
Chelsea is always a big part of my life. You know, it was 13 years of my career as a player and 18 months or so as a manager. And nobody would expect me to talk differently about the club, but it doesn't feel that that's the important part of it this weekend. Certainly not for me. My only thought is Everton. My only thought was preparing the team to try and win the game, and that's what every person at Chelsea would expect me to do. I'll focus completely on that.
Big weekend for Frank Lampard coming up, and a lot has been said about how Everton performed under Rafa Benitez in comparison to Frank Lampard. Whether it's fair or not, a lot of the conversation is heading that way. So let's have a look at the stats, and I'm interested to know what you both read from these stats, because you can see that the stats are slightly better under Benitez. But Leroy, what would you take from those numbers?
That's why they're in the relegation zone, is the first thing I take from it. But it is unfair because Frank's gone into a situation which was dire, really dire. I do think the performances under Frank that you watched have been, especially at home, have been better. I think when he first went there, I think he found it difficult just to get a handle on formations and players, and I think he flipped and flopped from formation to formation. But you know, that does surprise me that Benitez's stats are better, but they weren't better. And that's where stats do lie, because they were in a really poor place under Benitez. And the thing that strikes me was the atmosphere around the club, with the supporters and everybody around the club. It was so negative. And even though, you know, Everton are in a difficult position, it is much, much better. And that's what gives them a chance of staying up. I think under Benitez, how it was, if he'd stayed to the end of the season, they were definitely down. Yeah. But I think now, with Frank, they've got a chance.
Don, Leroy thinks they've got a chance. Only getting 18.3% possession in the Merseyside derby contradicts that slightly for me.
It does, and that graphic was a bit skewed because Rafa had 19 games to Frank's 12, so he's got games to catch up and make those numbers a little bit better. I've not got a problem with Everton going that way against a one-off game against Liverpool, because why would you open up and try and take Liverpool on at Anfield? You're going to lose 5 or 6. I think the way that they performed is not for the purist. But it was a necessity to try and get something out of the game. They got to half-time. Liverpool were the better side. They deserved their win. But coming away from that game, being hard-working, being disciplined, being more organised, only losing 2. I know it's not Evertonians want to hear you've lost 2-0, but your pride is not damaged if you lose 2-0 against Liverpool. If you open up and Frank's brave and he goes, right, we're going to take Liverpool on, which you would never do at Anfield, and you walk away with a 6 or 7, 5, 6 or 7, because it could easily be in that. The gulf between the two sides was 50 points. So you're not going to go toe-to-toe. So getting done 7 is going to damage your pride. At 2, you can take positives. You can go, right, that was good. Defensively, we're a little bit better. There was organisation in front of the back line, but they've lost. So that's what you take from that. But they were much better in a one-off game, even though the percentage stats is not what you want to see.
Absolutely right. I think Everton did the best they could do. I honestly do.
Yeah.
And I thought the game plan worked. You could see they'd been coached. You think they had structure. They all knew what they were doing. They all bought into it. Now you need to take that forward into
on
the next
another
game.
day.
On another day,
decisions
would have gone forward and would have changed the game. They might have got something out of the game.
Yeah.
So that's all you can take. And before you're saying like Frank wanted them to play out the back, and well, I didn't like that. You know, they're giving the ball. Not that game. It was absolutely right. It'll be more of the same against Chelsea, by the way. And they've had a little practice against Liverpool. So hopefully they'll be a little bit better, because that's what's going to get them out of it. And that's what I'm saying about Frank developing as a manager, because it's not a situation he's been in, but I think he's reacting in the right way. Whether it's in time, whether now he's got time to get the points, but it's exactly the right thing to do. Whether you like it or not, it was exactly the right thing to do. But the key thing was every single player bought into it. Every single player who went out on the pitch gave 100%. And against the Liverpool side, who at this moment you would argue the best side in the world, that was a decent performance. So they can take something forward. And you know, looking at the way Chelsea performed, it'll be an interesting game at Goodison.
He said, didn't he? He said, this is not the time for me to open up and want my side to play out from the back, because every game and every point matters. So you've got to try and grind at this stage of the season.
Be pragmatic.
Absolutely, absolutely. I totally agree. In a one-off game, as I said, you're not going to lose too much pride, and you're not going to lose that much face losing 2-0. But it could have been a lot worse if they tried different options.
What about Chelsea? Talk to me about Chelsea. Is this a good time for them to be playing them?
Do you know what? They played Man United last night. I watched the whole game. And they absolutely, totally dominated the game from start to finish for the first hour. Man United didn't really get a kick. And then they got the goal, and it's a good goal as well. Reece James was getting down that side. I think Reece James had 107 touches in the game. It was Havertz who got the flick on, and a great finish. But a minute later, they went and did this, and there was a lack of concentration. It was just too easy for them. And I know that sounds a little bit disrespectful. Obviously, Ronaldo comes up with a fantastic finish. It just seemed that they were just waiting to beat Man United. Now, if they go in with that attitude at Goodison to Everton, do you know what? I'm sure one thing Everton will do is they'll get amongst them, which Man United didn't last night. This Everton team will tackle, get in their faces, make them hard. The fans will be on their back. And if Chelsea go into the game with the same attitude, they're going to come up with a problem, by the way, because the opportunities they missed, Havertz missed like 2 or 3 really good chances. Werner had a couple of chances, Mount had chances. You know, as I said, Reece James was in acres of space. That's not going to happen at Goodison. And if their attitude is the same at Goodison Park, which you know what, which I think it might be, I think Chelsea will want to go and play out the back. I think Everton are going to enjoy that. So that first 20 minutes, if Everton can get in their faces, put them under pressure, I think Everton will have an opportunity maybe to get something out of the game.
But do they, Don?
I think they can get a draw. I think they can. I think they've got to be optimistic. At Goodison, the form under Frank's been really good. The contradiction to that is I think Chelsea have only lost 2 games away from home, so their away form is exceptional. But like Leroy, I watched the game last night and they could have beat Man U 6 or 7. They were so good, but not clinical in front of goal. And it'll be a different type of atmosphere. Goodison, I would imagine, on Sunday is going to be absolutely rocking. So Chelsea have to be prepared.
Scoreline?
I'm going to go 1-1.
Same, 1-1.
Sim, did you get that? They actually agreed.
They agreed.
Can I
Let's
change
move
that?
on while we can.
What would you change it to?
2-1 Everton.
Oh!
I just fancy something.
Wow, Leroy.